Hey, what's up, everybody? I've kind of been thinking about this topic for over the past like week or two, so I figured I would talk about it. So as you can see from the video title, this is gonna be I'm gonna talk about kind of the legality or like I guess arguments for the legality of nitrous oxide, whippets, laughing gas, galaxy gas, all that fun stuff. Before I get into it, I just want to quickly say, like, if you thought this video was interesting or liked it, please hit the like button. That helps tremendously. Please subscribe. That helps tremendously. Hopefully we'll be growing this channel even more. We're almost at 400 subscribers, growing this channel more and reaching more people. And then also, I guess most importantly, feel free to leave a comment. I really appreciate everyone who comments on my videos. I always read all the comments. I try to respond to them as best as I can. But especially on this video, please let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with my kind of perspective on this? Do you have a different perspective? What are your, kind of thoughts and reasoning on, as to why you believe what you believe? I'm curious to see how other people feel about this. But yeah, this is sparked because I've seen like some posts online on like Reddit, people talking about trying to get nitrous oxide banned, or like the sale in like smoke shops and stuff banned. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this. And then before I kind of get into my perspective, those that have watched my channel before, my videos before, might know my history, but just for those that are maybe new to the channel, I'll just give a quick summary of my experience with nitrous oxide. That way also you can kind of like you might feel that my perspective is like in contrast to my experience with nitrous oxide. So for me, I was introduced to nitrous oxide like around 21, 22 years old. I'm currently 36. I've used it off and on over, the years, but it wasn't until 2019. I guess I did have a quick bout, like I did use quite a decent amount of it in like 2013 and did develop some mania and psychosis, but it was relatively like minor and like didn't persist for very long. But it wasn't until August of 2019 where my use, like I finally kind of hit a higher amount of use, and especially duration of use, I should say abuse, not use, to the point where I became quite manic, and then psychotic, paranoid, to the point where it affected my behavior, and did get into a little bit of trouble with my job at the time. Fortunately, it was kind of played off and kind of swept under the rug, and I had stopped for a bit, but then my use picked back up like late October, all through November and December. Not necessarily daily, but like pretty frequent, to the point where it's like I was like super manic and super psychotic, by the middle of December, and I did end up losing my job. I was fired. Well, I was put on leave of absence, but eventually fired, and I did lose my nursing license, rightfully so. Don't like it's not like I feel like that's not warranted. It definitely was warranted. And then a week after that, I did end up in a pretty bad altercation with the police because of my paranoia and psychosis. Ended up running a red light, almost hit 2 cop cars going through an intersection. I didn't stop because I was paranoid that someone would pull me out of my car and kidnap me. I was on my way to the smoke shop to buy more nitrous, of course. And so instead of pulling over and letting the cops come and be like, what the hell, dude? Like, you almost hit us. I sped to the smoke shop and like hopped inside because I thought it would protect me. The cops showed up very quickly afterwards, and then gave me a decent smackdown and tased me multiple times because I wasn't being cooperative. I wasn't like punching them or fighting them, but I definitely was not cooperating in being detained. And then my use just continued worsening from there on out. At that point, it pretty much was daily. Anywhere from like, it started off like anywhere from like 400 to 600 cartridges, the 8-gram cartridges per day, up to at my highest peak was like 800 to like 1200 cartridges per day. And so that was daily for like 3.5 months. And then I believe it was like around April is when I had a pretty quick sudden onset of nerve damage. I woke up after, so the past few days prior to me waking up with, the nerve damage, I had incredible soreness and stiffness in my like calves, my lower legs. I think it was kind of what like was the final straw was me like walking a whole bunch because I went to the airport to go see my parents, but I quickly came back because I was paranoid of them. But when I woke up, I wasn't able to stand. I wasn't able to walk. I had lost pretty much all feeling and motor ability in my lower extremities. I had pretty significant weakness in my upper extremities, like my hands. I couldn't even open like a bag of chips because I just didn't have that grip strength. I couldn't curl my toes, even if I just sat there and just tried to focus on it. But yeah, so I couldn't walk, stand. I had to like crawl around my apartment just to like get to the bathroom, that went on for a few weeks. Of course, I stopped doing nitrous because I wasn't able to get nitrous, on account of not being able to step foot out of my apartment. I eventually did find a way to get it ordered through like Postmates from like a cash and carry type of restaurant supplier store. But that's another story. But for the most part, I had stopped. And also I was running low on money, but I had stopped. So after the few weeks of that, I was able to eventually start getting to my feet. I had to hold on to like, a counter or a desk and like kind of hoist myself up and hold on to it. If I didn't, I would tip over or fall over because I had very limited balance. And still, just complete drop foot. So it's like my feet were just pretty much useless. So I guess to kind of wrap this up, because this is getting a bit long, I apologize, but I just wanted it to be pretty thorough so you guys can kind of understand what I've been through. And again, surprisingly contrast perspective on the legality of nitrous. I was able to eventually like recover to like 99% normal over like about 18 months. It was a pretty slow, drawn out physical recovery. I surprisingly recovered because, or despite not doing physical therapy, I did not take any vitamin B12, didn't take it orally, sublingually, or intramuscularly. It was just mostly abstaining from nitrous oxide that I was able to eventually recover. I think one thing that helped was me slowly eventually walking. My motivation for walking at the time was walking down to the corner store to get beer, because at that point I had turned to drinking all day, daily, as a way to cope. I just couldn't cope with the amount of destruction that I had caused in my personal life, losing my job, being arrested, nerve damage, my apartment's just a disaster. So that all being said, I kind of just want to, share my perspective on, what I think the legality of nitrous oxide should be. And I think it should still be legal, honestly. I don't think it's right, or I guess my perspective is I don't think like we should be limiting the choices or like deciding for adults what they can and can't do. That even applies to like other like drugs. I won't go into it, because it's not completely relevant. But I feel like someone like an adult, like I should be able to make a decision, especially an informed decision, preferably, what I want to consume. I don't think it's right for the governments or like laws to, regulate or prohibit people from, pursuing whatever they like, consuming whatever they want to. Now I know it's like, yeah, but it's like, there's like no good use, for drugs or like good use for nitrous. But also like with the nitrous, it's not just, recreational use. Like it actually does have legitimate use as a whipped cream propellant. That's why they call it whippets. It's like you fill a whipped cream dispenser full of whipping cream, crack one of those into the dispenser, and then you get fresh whipped cream, without having to buy it in like the cans. Like Starbucks and other coffee shops use it. Some people use it at home for their own coffee or ice cream or pie, whatever. So, I mean, there's already some use. And then also it's, sometimes used in dentistry as an anesthetic. Like the laughing gas they give you to help, with your pain, So, there are some legitimate uses of it. So I think, that alone should not, it shouldn't be outright banned. And I think it's like, oh, well, we'll just regulate it. Like, don't sell it in smoke shops. I feel like people are going to get their hands on it regardless of whether it's legal or not. I mean, like, look at all the other illegal drugs. I mean, it's like, or guns, like people will get their hands on something if they want it. And then I think it's pretty problematic when it turns into a black market where there's no regulations and some very unsavory people involved. I think it's a lot better for it to be available in its pure form, along with like information about the risks and adverse effects. But again, specifically with nitrous, so I feel like it should remain as it is right now in most of the states. I don't know if there's any states that like ban it from being sold in stores. But as a whole, I think most states, like it's legal for you to like order it online, buy it in like a head shop or like a restaurant supply store. And I think that's fine. I think that should still continue to be the same. I think people should be able to, if they want to use that, go for it. I really do feel like there is some possible therapeutic use for nitrous oxide. One thing that did drive a lot of my use was I did find it to be helpful in ameliorating my depression and anxiety symptoms, even days or sometimes a few weeks after my last use, as long as I wasn't using so much that it turned into like mania and psychosis. But like a little bit, it actually did alleviate my depressive and anxiety symptoms. So I think there is potential benefit like on a therapeutic level, but it is a pretty addictive drug. It's very short-lived and very fiendish. They do call it hippie crack for a reason. So I think the potential for abuse is pretty high, and I think that's one reason why some people are proponents of banning it. And I get that too. Like I respect their opinion. I'm not saying I'm right or they're wrong. I'm just saying this is kind of my perspective. So I get that. Now, another thing too, before I kind of get to this next point. So for me, I knew very well what nitrous oxide did to the body the side effects and adverse effects. You know, I was very well aware of, you know, like possible asphyxiation, all the gunk that's in, I don't know if, you know, people watching this have abused a decent amount of nitrous, like using those cartridges, but after you go through several hundred and you open up the dispenser, there's like a black sludge. It's like this machine and oil and then like metal fragments, microscopic metal fragments in there. So I would always have like a cloth filter over my dispenser tip, which of course wasn't 100% effective. I'm sure there's still some that got out, but it's like you're inhaling that. You know, it's a cold compressed gas. You know, it's not going to be good for your lungs. And then, of course, the main thing which leads to the nerve damage is the fact that nitrous oxide inactivates vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is very important for a lot of different processes in the body. One of those being the maintenance and repair of the myelin sheath of the nerve axons. Think of it as like insulation on, like, you know, your phone charger cable, or, you know, coax cable. So that insulation is important because it helps maintain that signal, the action potential throughout the whole nerve. If that starts to deteriorate, then the nerve isn't able to send that signal effectively, and that results in the nerve damage. So by continuously abusing nitrous oxide for long periods of time, although from what I've seen from other people's experiences, it seems like some people experienced symptoms of nerve damage like with a lot less use. I'm actually really surprised that it took so much abuse for me to eventually like experience symptoms. Although I was experiencing the Legality sign for like several weeks before the onset of nerve damage. I didn't know it at the time, but it's like this, you know, if I look down, there's this like tingling and like buzzing sensation in my spine and my body. I thought it was like negative demonic energy that I picked up, like, you know, being in like the nitrous realm. Again, I won't go into that, but yeah, so over time, your body's vitamin B12 is gone, and because of that, then your body can't do what it's supposed to do. Metabolites build up, you know, methylmalonic acid. That's what they tested me. My B12 when I eventually went into the emergency department was normal, but when they tested the methylmalonic acid, it was 10 times than the high end of the reference range, so really high. And then that results in the nerve damage. So that's why people take vitamin B12. I don't think it's probably effective while you're using nitrous, because if it inactivates it, then it's probably pointless to take it while you're doing it. But, you know, why people take B12 after, like, sober and, you know, being sober from nitrous oxide, and, you know, but I won't get too much into that. But I want to make that explicitly clear, because it's like, for me, I wasn't like an uninformed user. Like, I was very well aware of the risks, and I still chose to pursue it anyways. Whoops, my monitor went out, sorry. But that's what I'm like, I'm an adult. I should be able to make that decision for myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's like fair or right for the government or anyone to step in and be like, no, you can't do that. It's going to hurt yourself. It's like, I don't care. Like, I still want it. So for me, I think maybe like one change, which I'm sure probably wouldn't happen. But I think maybe one change would be like if there was information on the box of, you know, the cartridges, or, you know, any Galaxy gas tanks. There is like a very small warning that says do not inhale. I think that's pretty much the extent of it. So it's like, you know, they're covered. It's like, oh, well, we told you not to inhale it. But I think we should drop the charade of, oh, you're just making whipped cream, wink, wink. And instead be like, hey, yeah, you're going to abuse this. That's cool, whatever. But having a specific warning on there where it's like, hey, inhalation of vitamin B12, especially for long periods of time, depletes your vitamin B12, may cause nerve damage. There's risks of asphyxiation, lung damage, burns, frost burns of your mouth and your hands. If you're using it so much that it ices up and I've had frost burns in my mouth and my hands. But if they had a pretty big explicit risk of hey, here's what you need to know. If you still want to use it, you're an adult, go for it. Because I think some people that use nitrous aren't aware of the effects, because it's, I think everyone should do adequate research into any substance they consume, especially even legal stuff or supplements, medications. I think everyone should be aware of what it is, what it does, how it does it, what are some side effects, what are some adverse effects, what are the risks and benefits, before consuming anything. But a lot of people don't, and that's fine. I'm not going to tell people how to live their life. So I know some people use nitrous and get hooked on it, and eventually experience nerve damage because they weren't aware. But there's also people like myself that are aware and they just don't really care, or they find the benefits over the benefits of getting high and maybe alleviating some of your mental health symptoms is worth the risk of nerve damage or dying. So yeah, I know that's a weird perspective to take, but again, I really feel we shouldn't limit what people can and can't do. Now, when it comes to murder, for example, or sexual stuff like assault, that should definitely be anything that affects anyone else. Yeah, that's regulations then. But it's if you want to do something that's going to only affect yourself, and of course you could argue, well, it might affect other people, you might have to steal for money to get nitrous or lie to people or whatever. It may indirectly harm people, or secondary harm to people. But I think that's okay. So it's I'm not saying there should be no laws or total anarchy, but I just think the illegalization of substances, I think, is just counterproductive and not, and just not fair to people that, we're adults. We should be able to make adult decisions, and, some of those decisions carry pretty bad consequences. But yeah, I think if they, drop the facade of, hey, this is just for whipped cream use, and actually put a pretty good warning on there, I think that's all that should really be done. And of course, the sale of it, limiting the sale, which some places do. I mean, I think a good amount of places I've been to do limit the sale to people that are 18 years or above. Maybe you could argue, and I would, probably be on board, maybe raise that to 21 as well. I mean, drinking and now nicotine is 21. That way someone has more time to develop their prefrontal cortex and make a little bit better decisions. I think that's reasonable. But other than that, yeah, I don't think it should be prohibited. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully that lays out my perspective pretty clearly. Again, and despite my experience with, the nerve damage, I still feel it should still be legal and available for use as long as people are aware of the risks. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you think you agree with me, if you disagree with me, why you disagree with me, if you think I'm a big fat idiot. Let me know. I appreciate all comments. Maybe don't call me a big fat idiot. Maybe do it in a more constructive criticism type of way. I would appreciate that. But yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. And again, if this was an interesting video, please like and subscribe. It really helps grow this channel. I do plan on talking more about nitrous oxide and stuff like that. I just need to kind of think of more topics, specific topics to think about. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.